Hello everyone and welcome back to ImTechnos. In today's video, we are going to learn about Amazon SageMaker JumpStart, and we'll also walk through a simple hands-on demo to see how it works in practice. Let me start with a simple situation. Imagine you want to build an AI application, for example, a model that detects objects in images, or a chatbot for customer support, or even a system that analyzes customer reviews. Now here is a challenge. Building a machine learning model usually requires collecting data, preparing datasets, writing complex ML code, training models, managing infrastructure, and deploying the model. For many beginners, this process can take weeks or even months. And honestly, most people who are learning AWS do not want to start from zero every time. They want something like, can I just start with a ready-made model and customize it? And this is exactly where Amazon SageMaker JumpStart becomes very useful. Amazon SageMaker JumpStart is a feature inside Amazon SageMaker that provides pre-built machine learning models, pre-configured solutions, and ready-to-use ML algorithms. So instead of building everything from scratch, you can simply choose a model, deploy it, and start using it. So think of it like this. If a machine learning deployment is like cooking a complex dish, normally you would buy ingredients, prepare everything, and cook from scratch. But SageMaker JumpStart is like a meal kit. Most things are already prepared. You just assemble and run it. So the development becomes much faster and easier. Now let's understand how Amazon SageMaker JumpStarts work at a high level. First, you select a model from the JumpStart model catalog. AWS provides a large collection of pre-built models for different machine learning tasks such as text generation, image classification, object detection, NLP models, and large language models. So instead of building a model from scratch, you can simply choose an existing model that fits your use case. Once you select a model, the next step is deployment. The good part is that AWS handles most of the heavy lifting automatically, including infrastructure support, container configuration, scaling, and resource management. This means you don't need to manually manage servers or complex ML environments. After the model is deployed, it becomes available for use. You can interact with the model through different methods such as APIs, SDKs, or integrate it directly into your application, so that the entire process becomes very fast and beginner friendly. Now let's move on to a quick hands-on demo using Amazon SageMaker JumpStart. So first, go ahead and log into your AWS account. Once you are logged in, you should be in the AWS Management Console. For this demo, make sure you're working in North Virginia region because many AI services are fully supported here. First, go to search bar, type service quotas, then select it from the results. Once the service quotas page opens, under manage quotas, search for SageMaker, select it, and then click view quotas. Now in the search bar on this page, type ml.g5.2x-large. We are specifically looking for the quota related to this instance type. You will see multiple options here, but make sure you select ml.g5.2x-large for the endpoint usage. Because in this demo, we are going to deploy a model as an endpoint. So once you find it, click on it. Now check the account level quota value. If the value is 0, it means the instance type is currently not enabled for your account. In that case, click on Request Increase at Account Level, then change the value from 0 to 1 and click on Request. Since we are requesting only one instance, the request is usually approved automatically within a few seconds. If you request for larger limits, AWS may take some time to review and approve it. So for this demo, simply change the value from 0 to 1 to speed up the process. In my case, the quota is already set to 2. So I'll just cancel this request. If yours shows 0, make sure you update it to 1 and submit the request. Now let's move to the next step or the actual step. Open a new tab in your browser. In the search bar at the top, type SageMaker AI and select it from the search results. This will open the SageMaker dashboard. Now on the left navigation panel, scroll to Environment Configuration and then click Domains. For this demo, we need to create a SageMaker domain. In one of our previous tutorials, we already created a domain while working with SageMaker Data Wrangler. However, for this demo, we will create a new domain specifically for the SageMaker JumpStart demo. So go ahead and click Create Domain. Here you will see two setup options. Since this is just a demo, select Setup for single user and then click Setup. Once you click Setup, SageMaker will automatically start creating several components required for the domain. This includes configurations for SageMaker Studio and underlying resources. As you can see, the setup process has started. It may take a few minutes to complete. While this is being created, you will also see a 2-minute tour of SageMaker Studio that introduces the main feature and interface. You can quickly go through the tour if you want an overview of the studio environment, or you can simply wait until the domain creation process finishes. Now once the domain is created, click on Open Studio. This will redirect you to Amazon SageMaker Studio. Think of Studio as a development environment for machine learning. When Amazon SageMaker Studio opens up for the first time, you might see a studio tour pop up. For now, simply click Skip Tour. Now remember, SageMaker JumpStart mainly involves 3 simple steps. Select a model, deploy the model, test or access the deployed model. Okay? So let's start with the first step, which is selecting a model. On the left navigation panel, just below Home, you will see the model section. Go ahead and click on Models. This is where SageMaker JumpStart provides access to large collection of pre-trained foundational models and machine learning models. Examples include the text generation models, image classification models, object detection models, or NLP models. Now scroll down and under all models, look for the use case filter. Here, select the use case as text generation. Okay, select it. Now under providers, select Amazon and from the list, choose Amazon Mistral Lite. Okay, and click on it. Once you click on it, a model details page will open. On this page, you will see information such as the model description, the supported tasks, and the deployment options. Okay, available for this model. This particular model is used for generating text responses based on prompts, which means we can provide a question or instruction and the model will generate an answer. Now the reason I'm selecting Amazon Mistral Lite here is simply because many people are already familiar with Amazon provided models, especially when learning AWS GenAI services. So using an Amazon model makes it easier for viewers to relate to the example. However, there is no strict requirement to use this model. You can choose any model you prefer from the available list depending on your use case. Now once the model opens, click on Deploy. At this stage, SageMaker will ask for some endpoint configuration details. This is because the model needs to be deployed as an endpoint before we can access it or send prompts to it. First, we need to configure an endpoint name. You can either use an existing endpoint name or create a new one. For this demo, we will create a new endpoint name. So click on Enter Endpoint Name. Now you will see a field to enter the endpoint name. Here you can provide any simple name. For example, I will give the name as JumpStart Text Model. Now under the instance type, select ml.g5.2x large, which is the default one. Okay. So this is the instance type that we enabled earlier before starting this demo. After selecting the instance type, make sure the instance count is set to 1. You don't need to change any other settings here. In fact, most of the configuration options are already automatically configured by SageMaker JumpStart, which makes the deployment process much simple for beginners. Now, once everything looks good, scroll down and click Deploy. At this point, AWS will start creating the model endpoint along with the required infrastructure resources and containers need to run the model. So the deployment may take few minutes. So we will wait until the endpoint status becomes active. Once deployment finishes, the endpoint status will become in service. This means the model is ready to use. Now you can test the model. Here you can see the endpoint URL and the ARN These details are important because this endpoint can be called from external applications using APIs. For example, your application can send requests to this endpoint and receive responses from the deployed model. Now, if you want to test the model directly from the SageMaker console, scroll down to the playground section. But before that, you will notice a few sections on this page. First, under variants, you can see the instance type and the variant information used for the deployment. Variants are basically different configurations of the model that can be deployed under the same endpoint. Next, you will see the settings section. Here, you can review the configuration options that were enabled during deployment. You will also see auto-scaling option. If required, you can enable auto-scaling so that SageMaker automatically increases or decreases the number of instances based on incoming traffic. Now let's move to the playground, which is where we can test our deployment model. Inside the playground, you will see two options for testing. One is test the sample request and other one is use Python SDK example code. So the Python SDK example generates code that you can run from your own Python application. However, for this demo, we will use test the sample request option because it is much simpler and allows us to test the model without opening any IDE. Now select test the sample request. Now you will see the JSON request template. Inside the JSON, you will find the inputs field where we can provide our prompt. For example, you can type explain cloud computing in simple terms. Once you update the prompt, leave the remaining parameters as they are. Now scroll down and click send request. On the right hand side, you will see the request is being processed. After a moment, the model will generate a response. As you can see, the model has returned a response explaining cloud computing in simple terms. So this is how Amazon SageMaker JumpStart allows us to quickly select a model, deploy it, and test it with just few clicks. In terms of cost, JumpStart models run on compute instances behind the scenes. That means when you deploy a model, AWS automatically launches the infrastructure required to run that model. So you are charged mainly for two things, the instance usage and endpoint running time. So even if you are not actively sending requests to the model, the endpoint continues running and the instance will still incur charges. So a very important best practice is to always delete the endpoint after testing. Now let's do a quick cleanup step. So in the endpoint section, on the right side of the endpoint, you will see an option called delete. So click on delete and then confirm that you want to delete the endpoint and click delete endpoint. AWS will now start removing the endpoint and the associated resources. This might take a short while, but it usually completes fairly quickly. Since we only created one resource for this demo, there is no additional cleanup steps required. And that's it for this demo. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy learning.